All right, welcome in. The floor is yours. This is our usual Thursday episode here. That's when we record this thing on our YouTube channel. Thanks to everybody who's been subscribing to our YouTube channel. Now over 4,500 subscribers. Thank you also to the Miami Heat for forcing you people to actually consume Heat content by the way that they played so far in the postseason. Now 6-0. We, of course, in addition to being on the YouTube channel and on our podcast feeds where we are going to put this up so you can listen to this overnight, we are also on Dash Radio every day, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Pacific. Download the Dash Radio app for free and then search for the Nothing But Net channel, Nothing But Net, no G at the end, and you will find us, again, every day, 10 to 11 a.m. All right, today, and I'm going to get to our sponsor in a second, you will see if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, we look a little bit different. One of the four boxes is a little paler than it typically is. We've got underneath me Greg Sylvander. He's got the guts. He's right there for you. Alex Toledo, on time, locked and loaded in the Black Lives Matter shirt on my right. And then replacing Alphonse Sidney, who's taking a night off after having our most successful stream ever. People think I fired him because I'm pissed that he's been more successful than me as a host.
Did you pull a James Harden, like what you do with Chris Paul?
That's exactly right. I sent him away, but no, actually, Al's just taking the night off. He'll be back with us. So replacing him is our guy, Clay Ferraro. You can find him at WPLG Channel 10, of course. He's on Sunday with Will Manso. We were hoping to get both of you guys on, but Will big-timed us. So we got Clay. Clay, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Two things. Number one, nobody replaces Alf. So let's get that out of the way really quickly. Secondly, you don't understand, man. Will had and this is a true story, Will had a very stressful day. First off, he's having to do the whole virtual learning thing. His kids are in Miami-Dade school, so that's been really stressful. But secondly, for the first time in about a decade, he went to a baseball card store and he found a box of 2020 Topps baseball cards. And so like earlier today, he had this rush of opening the wax box. First time he's had it for a decade, and he pulled nothing. So I think he's a little disappointed because of that. And so I think he's like nursing a wound, but I'll try to carry on for him.
No, that's all right. It's been a long time since I opened baseball cards, although I did have the complete 1985 rookie set that had Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry on it. And it's somehow been misplaced, or else I would have been retired a whole long time ago. Also, if the two of them hadn't had drug issues and their careers had gone the way you anticipated, I probably would have been richer, but it is what it is. All right, let's get to our sponsor today, and then we're going to get to what we're doing. And I've got a beer here. Alex told me to make sure I have the label turned the correct way. Biscayne Bay Brewing. This is the official craft beer of Inter Miami and the Miami Marlins, and also 5 Reasons Sports. This is South Florida's actual independent brewery. I know there's another brewery that's affiliated with the Panthers, and they were independent, and I've been there. They're not independent anymore. This is the official independent brewery in South Florida. They're owned by local guys who employ people in this community to make their beer right here in South Florida, and they support us so we can keep bringing you that content. So we've got this one. This, of course, is the Miami Pale Ale, Tropical Bay IPA, and I got a ton of Marlins Lager in my fridge. You can find them at major retailers throughout South Florida. Go to BiscayneBayBrewing.com and call up the list, and they'll tell you where you can find their beer. They're in a bunch of Publixes, including the one I can walk to here, but keep sending us the free stuff. All right, let's get to what we're going to do today. Floor's yours. This is a more interactive platform than we do on our podcast. We brought in Clay tonight because we've got some topics that we've bounced around, but I want to bring in another voice on this. We're going to start very standard, and then I've got some kind of offbeat topics I want to get to. The first standard topic, as we're watching the Boston Celtics beating the Toronto Raptors again, possibly going to 7-0 in the playoffs. I'll start here. Who has been the more impressive team in the bubble, Clay? Boston or Miami?
Impressive, you mean the better team or the team that perhaps exceeded expectations?
Who's just looked better to you?
Boston. And look, what Miami has done against Milwaukee is fantastic, and certainly what they did against Indiana. I do think there were some matchup things with this Milwaukee series that we thought coming into it were going to play out. And what's funny is there have been some other things that have popped up that we weren't even expecting that have played out in Miami's favor. Like if you told me that Chris Middleton was going to have the great game that he did in game one, and also step up a bit in game two like he did, I'd expect the Heat to be in trouble, and they didn't. And yet, For me, I think once you saw the minutes restriction lifted off of Kemba Walker, I think you're starting to see what Boston can be. And I'll say this up front. I picked Boston and the Clippers to play in the finals heading into the playoffs. So maybe I'm what do they call it? Affirmation bias, maybe playing into this a little bit. But I've just been blown away by Boston. But look, Miami is a very, very close second. And I think with the Heat, what's impressed me the most has been kind of how that camaraderie that we saw throughout the regular season has translated to the bubble, and yet it also feels like that's lifting guys a bit. So it's not just, and we talk about it all the time, the culture, the guts. But what I think you're starting to see play out is that there's something to that, in that Tyler Hero at 19 and now 20 years old can come into this environment and do what he's doing. So it's very, very close for me, but I'm taking Boston at this point.
Greg, where do you have it? And by the way, as we mentioned that, Dwayne Wade just decided to find a tweet that I tweeted yesterday comparing his stats. You mentioned Tyler Hero through his first 6 games. I always get worried when I compare people to Dwayne that he's going to get pissed about me making the comparison, but apparently he did not in this case. I compared Dwayne's first 6 playoff games to Tyler's, and they match up pretty closely. And Dwayne just came up with the baby and goat emojis and retweeted it, which is one of the reasons my connection is not great right now, because my phone is blowing up with notifications. Let's go to you, Greg. You typically will take the Heat's perspective on this, but has Boston been better?
Probably, if I take my Homer hat off, yes. But I mean, Miami did just win 2 road games against the number 1 seed. So I think that's a pretty impressive feat in itself. But no, Boston has been unbelievable. I think a lot of us, if we were leaning in a direction other than Miami throughout this, it was Toronto. And to see them kind of handle Toronto, I'm looking up this way because that's where my TV screen is. Boston has been really impressive. Combine that with, if there was ever a matchup that I think Heat fans would want to avoid, it's the point of attack stuff from Kemba. It's the wings that Boston has that are so prolific. So ultimately, I think we still got to give a slight edge to Boston, but we haven't swept Milwaukee yet, so that we have to play that into this as well.
Yeah, I know, swept Milwaukee. You're already jumping ahead of that. But Alex, do you change? Because we talked a lot about Boston and our concerns about Boston, but the Heat handled Boston in the bubble. They did play them directly. And
without Jimmy Butler.
Right, and looked a lot better against them. And now there's no Gordon Hayward either. So, I mean, maybe I understand how well the Celtics are playing and Kemba being healthy, but, I mean, do you feel better about it than you did?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt about it. You guys know how often I've just kind of been a little bit questioning the Heat as far as how far they can go in the playoffs because of the defensive side, and they've just been an improved team on that, and there's no other way about it. I mean, not that they've been like, it hasn't been a ginormous improvement, but what's really sustained is the execution throughout 48 minutes, right? Like, they'll have mistakes just like any other team, but at the end of the day, they're committed to their game plan and they're executing it just about as sharp as you can, especially given the roster, right? For as many good defenders they have as many bad ones. And to be fair, they're not playing as many of those guys as they were before. But at the end of the day, I trust this team now more. I trust them with the switching defense. It kind of gave us mixed results before the shutdown. But ever since the bubble came back, and particularly ever since the playoffs started, they've been sharp as hell. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there hasn't been really any mistakes. And a lot of guys are not getting burned as much. Kendrick Nunn doesn't really stick out to me as much as maybe he did before, other than when Bledsoe was just taking him to the rim. But you know what I'm saying? I'm a lot more confident in this team's defense than it was before. And they're already playing a smaller wing-heavy perimeter rotation. So they're not going to have to adjust their game plan too much, I think, for the Celtics if they do get them. Because right now they're now up 6 on the Raptors in the early third quarter. And this is going to be a theme throughout, but I think let's not give it to them just yet, because the Raptors came back from down 0-2 last year, given with Kawhi Leonard. And, the Bucks are a team that were pretty much on pace to win 70 this year after winning 66 last year. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves yet, but my God, would I be so excited for a Heat Celtics conference final. And I'm all in on that idea for sure.
And it doesn't appear that Hayward will be back, because we were talking the 4 weeks.
Oh, really?
He's out. Well, it was supposed to be 4 weeks from there, and we're only a week out. And remember, also, he was waiting on the birth of his child, and there was a chance he was going to leave the bubble for that. So he's kind of trying to time those two things. if you've had a child, you know that's not the easiest thing to time in some cases. So education reform, is that what he is? By the no, is he, what is he? He's Reaganomics? I'm not sure what
All lives matter. No.
It appears he's going to be out for a little bit of time. All right, let's get to number 2 here.
By the way, that will make them easier to defend. Watch out for the zone to come back now that they have like so many non-shooters out there. What we might see it for at least a little bit.
Yeah, until Marcus Smart goes off for 11 threes, because there's this weird thing where he's one of the worst shooters in the league, and then he'll have one of those games.
Oh, but that's the thing. He has not been a bad shooter for the past like 2 seasons now. He's like a Crowder. He's like he'll get you 35%. You know.
Yeah, well, Crowder was getting you 60 for a little while. And let's get to topic number 2 here. I want to get into the Bucks specifically because I feel like everybody is writing them off. You mentioned it, but even from a national media perspective, Jason Whitlock has decided it's because they care too much about social justice. That's where he went today. Sorry for even mentioning that name. But everybody's coming up with excuses for them. And then this even started this battle today on Twitter between Richard Jefferson, Scottie Pippen, Jay Williams, and LeBron James, with these tweets going back and forth about who was Jordan and who was Pippen, and Giannis needs a Pippen, and then Pippen was kind of like saying to Richard Jefferson, like, what did you do in your career? You know, Giannis has won 2 MVPs. Again, just kind of a strange situation. Does this Bucks team, in your view, I'll start with you this time, Greg. Does this Bucks team, in your view, I don't know, have the guts, so to speak, to rally themselves, to make a series of this, or is this just not a team that has that kind of championship medal?
No, I think they're going to make a run. I think it would be foolish of us to just go Heat in 5, Heat sweep. I feel like there's elements of the series that could play out that way, so it's not like you can completely discount it, but they're a 1 seed for a reason. They have the best player in the league, statistically, MVP wise. So you're going to get their best punch in the next game. The fact that they're not having to go down to the AAA for game 3, obviously it helps them, I think, in that regard. But I think that they still got a punch. So like that's ultimately when the game starts tomorrow, we're going to see their best punch because it's like life on the line type stuff. And if Miami withstands that and keeps it close, I think that the win starts to come out of Milwaukee's sails slowly but surely.
Alex, but what does that look like? What does Milwaukee's best punch look like at this stage? Because I thought it was Chris Middleton going for 21.5, and apparently it was not that.
Well, you see, I think the best punch has to do with kind of the whole team being more in sync. I think they've kind of had inconsistent performances from, 1 through 10, whereas I think all season their bench is the most productive. And I'm not just talking about the bench here. We know that George Hill's back there, so that'll help. But at the end of the day, they defended at a way higher level in game 2 than they did in game 1. I think that's kind of going to be the thing, whereas if they make just a couple adjustments, I'm not sure exactly what those are, and I'm not sure Budenholzer's going to make. We know his reputation. If just continue to defend hard, that's going to get them in transition. Even though the Heat are getting back every time, the Bucks getting out in transition is going to generate points and get the momentum because they're not generating momentum in the half court. They obviously got to make adjustments there as well. But even though they don't have a lot of snipers other than, let's say, Kyle Korver, and I don't know who else you consider a sniper on the team other than like Middleton, I think they can get hot from 3, and I think they need, Giannis and Middleton to both have good games at the same time. Where I don't think Giannis was bad in game 1. But at the end of the day, like he was a lot better in game 2, and they got a lot more points in the paint. It looked a lot more like the Bucks we saw all season. I think we're gonna see more of that. And frankly, I would not be surprised if this is a 2-1 series after game 3. I think the Bucks are that good. And like Leif said, if it's 3-0, I'm not trying to doubt the team at all. It's the Heat were not supposed to be doing this, and that's why I said this is monumental what they're doing. If they go up 3-0, this might be unprecedented what they're doing right now. And maybe I'm too young to know, but this feels unprecedented.
Well, I mean, I think the Big 3 only went 6-0 through 1 playoff run.
Yeah.
So it is pretty close to unprecedented, and then they weren't playing a team like Milwaukee. So, I mean, they were playing Milwaukee, but they were playing
not this Milwaukee.
Not
Brandon
this
Jennings.
Milwaukee, yeah.
Not this Milwaukee. So Clay, I mean, it does feel like everything has swung here to a large degree, where the Heat are no longer kind of the cute darling team, but I mean have become a team that I think a lot of people look at and say, well, they're as good as Milwaukee. What would a Milwaukee punch look like to you?
So
We'll come back to Clay in a second because we're having technical problems, which we never have on streams. But we're doing just fine. All right, so we're gonna bring Clay back in on that topic. Before we do, I want to tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's MyBookie. If you want to bet on this series the rest of the way, I think it flipped. I was looking at it today. I think the Heat are now favorites to win the series. They were plus 350 before the series started, which
not according to the bet that I made today on MyBookie, by the way. Promo code 5 on the floor.
You did? All right. So what was the bet? Oh, Mike.
Oh, I don't have the odds in front of me right now, but I placed a bet earlier today where the Heat were still the underdog, but it was an exact series finish. So I don't know. I got to see the money line how it's looking. I predicted on an exact series finich.
Easy money.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing the exact finish, I should have done the Heat and 6 thing, but we'll see if it ends up being 5 or 4. But winning season is returned at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. It means Survivor, Super Contests, and Squares at MyBookie. Winning season means hitting all your parlays and props with your feet up and watching your team trounce their rivals. Also, NFL season's coming back, so we think. Not a lot of talk about it because we've been talking so much NBA, but use the promo code 5 on the floor, spell it out FIVE on the floor, and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play, designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. And it's better than playing the stock market, which if anybody does that, this was not a particularly good day. Clay, let's go back to you because you froze on us.
So fast. I am dying at these comments. These were fantastic. They just called my internet Siakam. Playoff
Blitz.
They called it Coach Bud. What else did they call? That was fantastic.
Clay's calling
Balazs
Wi-Fi.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
It just
well done, guys. Keep it coming.
The speed on it moves. Was it 1 inch at a time? Basically, Clay. Let's get to it though, before it craps out again with that Siakam Wi-Fi you got.
We should be good this time. I think I fixed it.
What would a Bucks?
Ethan,
what would a Bucks?
Quick,
push?
Ethan. By the way, to update on what you said, you're right. The Heat are now the favorite on MyBookie just to win the series.
There you go. So go to MyBookie. If you feel good about the Heat, you're not going to get the same odds that I got 4 days ago.
Promo code 5 on the floor.
But you'll still do okay. All right, go for it, Clay.
I thought we saw a punch in Game 2, and Jay Crowder said it today that it felt like the intensity level, Lou Dort's 3-point percentage, that the intensity level was higher from the Bucks in Game 2. And I felt this way after Game 1. I thought the Heat really took the upper hand in this series by winning Game 1. I know this sounds so obvious, but especially when you have these chess matches come playoff time, and we've heard it so much that. And look, I'm not going to pretend to have watched all of the Atlanta Hawks playoff series when Budenholzer was the coach there, and Milwaukee's series since he's been there. But when you hear about the lack of adjustments, and then Miami goes out and wins Game 1, and they're the team forcing Milwaukee to adjust for Game 2, and then Milwaukee comes adjustments, and Bledsoe I thought played fairly well, especially early on. My question is, was that the punch? And I look, nobody's saying that this is going to be a sweep, but I think if you're a Heat fan, this thing has played out a lot better than you could have imagined, especially when you look back to last year. And you mentioned earlier that the Raptors lost the first 2 games to Milwaukee. Well, wasn't that when the questions about Milwaukee's ability to make adjustments started to come in? So if you're the team that we think is better at adjusting, you're already up 2-0. Even if Milwaukee were to come out in Game 3 and maybe you do more Bledsoe ISOs, maybe you do something like that, whatever that punch is, I feel like Miami's already seen one, and if they see another, they'll have a better counter. So I just felt like there were some moments in those last 2 games where it was kind of like in Happy Gilmore. Oh, Happy learned how to putt. Oh, Miami might be the better team here. And not just because of matchups, but they may actually be the better team. And when you get to that point where Milwaukee starts to doubt, then I think you got something if you're Miami.
All right, let's get to the third topic here. The injury report came out this afternoon. 2 Heat players are on it. The first one I think we expected, which was Andre Iguodala. He's listed as questionable. The second one is Kelly Olynyk, which kind of came out of nowhere, also listed as questionable. My guess is Andre Iguodala does not play in Game 3. When you have an ankle sprain and you're expecting a deep playoff run, you're up 2-0 in a series. I think you give him 2 more days to rest. And I think you give DJJ his minutes after, the way he kind of came back from the 3 early fouls. The Olynyk thing is, though, to me, more concerning. He's harder to replace, I think, in the limited minutes that he plays. What do we know about that, Greg? And I guess if he doesn't play, does Myers Leonard get a few minutes in this series?
If Olynyk doesn't play, I think they have to go with Myers. I think that there's parts of the way Milwaukee plays where you got to have another big. Did I freeze?
No, you did, but I was laughing at the comment which said that Clay's internet is still faster than Brook Lopez.
It's the playoffs. I gotta say, not now, internet. Like an injury, right? So ultimately, I lost my train of thought. Now, what the heck were we talking about?
We were talking about Olynyk. What happens?
So I actually think Iggy will be able to play tomorrow, but I think they may hold him out for precautionary reasons. But if they needed him, he could play. But the way that his ankle rolled forward like that, it's not the best, particularly the day after. So they may be careful there. Olynyk, since this just popped up, I think it's probably pretty precautionary as well. You'll still see him. But Myers Leonard may get this opportunity, and he's been waiting for it, even if it's just for 9 minutes or something like that, to actually get the opportunity to contribute. So this is this next man up thing, and the fact that Spo has talked about how the depth is a strength, we're going to potentially see it in Game 3.
Clay, are you concerned about Iguodala missing time?
Concerned if he's unable to come back anywhere near 100%, because I think he was obviously really impressive and a big reason why one of the many guys who's been able to slow down Giannis. But I'm with you guys. If there is any sort of question about it, then Game 3, let him sit, let him get better, and especially when you've got that 2-0 lead, there's just no reason to push it. The thing with Olynyk that to me, I guess, is encouraging was there really wasn't any sign of it yesterday. It's a bruised knee, which you would think is, you're not talking about ligament. I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor here, but if you're not talking about something structural, and you're in the playoffs, and this is what you played all year for. What are the MyBookie odds? Clay's internet didn't go out again. That's phenomenal. About the same as the Bucks' chances of winning the game.
Use the code 5 on the floor. Use the code 5 on the floor when you do it.
Yeah, I'm less concerned, and I agree with you. If you had to go without one for a game, then yeah, the Olynyk one would be a bit more concerning. But since it doesn't appear to be anything structural, my guess is they'll find a way for him to give it a go.
What do they do if Olynyk does not play, Alex? Both of you. Either of you guys.
No, go ahead, Clay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see a lineup out there where you don't have a big man on Brook Lopez. So I think if you've got a situation where Bam needs to guard Giannis or he's resting, then I think you got to go with Myers Leonard. But again, I think the hope, at least for me, and realizing this isn't structural, is that hopefully you're not dealing with that on Friday.
Alex, you think they go single big? I mean, no big in some situations? DJ at the 5?
It might be. I mean, I think we might see that just because Kelly hasn't played that much, and maybe they do replace him with Myers minutes, which I don't hate that idea whatsoever. I think Myers can get some easy pick and pop threes just because of, again, the Brook Lopez drop and, kind of limiting him to when Brook plays, just like you were doing with Kelly. I think that would work because all he has to do is hit some open threes. He doesn't really have to do much else other than set a decent screen. Other than that, the Derek thing makes sense to me. Like I said on the last pod, I like him better on the sides of that help defense that they're playing when they're loading up on Giannis more so than playing him one-on-one. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just shortened it and, maybe they got a couple short stints, maybe even shorter than Kelly. I'm good with Myers playing, though. As long as it's a few minutes when Brook Lopez plays.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another one comes into Clay's internet is as reliable as Giannis's free throw shooting. But by the way, what has happened with that? Because he was never great, but he's never been this bad. Like he's like Whiteside levels now. And
his mechanics are so bad, bro. It's so inconsistent too.
Right. He's all over the place.
You know what it looks like? It looks like he needs some Rob Fedor attention.
I knew that was coming. That's why
I knew it was coming.
I set you up for that. All right, next time.
By the way, I forgot to say they have not posted up Brook Lopez yet at all. Like Clay was referring to, I wouldn't for the same reasons, love to have a smaller guy like a Crowder or somebody else, a Derrick Jones Jr. on him. But maybe Bud starts doing that. I don't see why he hasn't yet. It just seems really obvious because the Heat are playing small. And even though Bam isn't guarding Giannis one-on-one, he might end up getting Brook in the one-on-one matchup, or he might get a Kelly Olynyk, or a Myers Leonard, or somebody not as strong as Bam at the same time. I think Brook Lopez should be posting up anybody smaller than him that's a non-Heat big whenever he's in the game, even if the post-up isn't, we talk about what shots are efficient and what are not. Like Brook Lopez posting up a 6'7" dude is an efficient shot. I don't care what anything says, and the numbers will back that up.
I'm sorry, laughing because Ben posted here that Leif mentions Rob Fedor more than Rob Fedor's family does, which is probably
true.
Put Clay's internet on Brook. Yeah, that'll slow him down. That's for sure. All right, let's get to the next topic. It's a little off the series path here, but there was some news. Greg broke a couple days ago that Dan Craig was going to be interviewing with the Chicago Bulls, since others have confirmed that he got permission to do so. But then also Miami Heat beat reported that Dan Craig is interviewing with Indiana as well. So that's two teams in the Central Division. And, of course, two coaches have already left Spo's staff. It felt like nobody ever used to leave Riley's staff. He doesn't have much of a tree compared to Pop and some of the others. But we've already seen David Fizdale go to Memphis and then New York. We saw Juwan Howard leave for the University of Michigan. In Juwan's situation, that was a good decision. In Fizdale's case, it didn't turn out to be such a good decision, particularly the second decision. I guess let's look at this from Dan Craig's perspective. I posted this on Twitter, and it ended up 50-50. I'm not saying he's the front runner for either job. I think D'Antoni's going to be a front runner for one of these jobs if Houston blows him out. I still think Jeff Van Gundy could get in the mix somewhere. I think Nate McMillan could get in the mix, obviously not for Indiana, but somewhere else. We saw Ty Lue's going to Philadelphia. We're going to talk about the Nash decision with Brooklyn today because I think that one is interesting. But there are still some coaches, and of course, Mark Jackson could get a look in Indiana because there's some history there. I would like to get him off my television. Sorry, Clay. I know that's a partner. But let's get to Dan Craig. If you had a choice, Chicago job, Indiana job, Clay, which do you take?
Indiana. I just think there are so many questions about Chicago. And look, I love Zach LaVine offensively, but man, you read about just how bad he is defensively. It's like, wow. So you can kind of understand where the some of the players there isn't quite what the individual players would be. I don't know, however you say that. But to me, you look at Indiana, and I feel like they're going to get something for Oladipo. They have to find him. Maybe it's from Miami. Maybe it's from somebody that's trying to keep, maybe New York, somebody who's trying to lure him and gain his attention before free agency starts next year. They're going to get something for Oladipo. That was a really good team, a really dangerous team, I thought, when they had Sabonis healthy. And I was really impressed with Malcolm Brogdon in that first round playoff series. And I know a lot of that was the fact that they were hunting matchups. But I think you see a guy right there that you can build around that nucleus, right? So I feel a little bit better about the nucleus that you've got right there than I think you would in Chicago.
But the difference to me is, the Bulls don't typically spend, but they are a big market. Indiana's not going to spend.
That's it.
Fair point. Fair point.
It's such a weird thing because Indiana, top to bottom, is a better run organization. They draft really well. They've developed players, not to the level of Toronto, Miami, and San Antonio, but there's been guys that have came up through that system, like a Danny Granger that's a 17th pick or something like that turns into an all-star. So they've shown the propensity to be able to, Paul George is the 10th pick, whereas Chicago has kind of fumbled a bunch of those bags. So, but this is the issue with Indiana, is that if you go there, you have spending constraints and they're just there. They're not going to pay the tax. They're going to be profitable. So you have to weigh that part of it as well. The interesting thing is Dan Craig's going to be really selective in where he goes. It's also going to have a lot to do with what kind of staff he can bring to both situations. I think there's a couple things that he would need to be successful, in my opinion. And one is he's going to need a guy on his bench that can connect to the players and connect to the locker room, kind of like a Juwan or a Fizdale or a Malik Allen type player, maybe a former player, quite frankly. So I've heard that he's, that there's been talk of what a staff would look like, which tells me that things could get relatively serious. But his focus is on the Heat right now, and I wouldn't expect much to materialize at this moment.
Which job would you take, Alex? And then I want to follow the coaching conversation here a little bit.
Honestly, that's tough. But at the end of the day, I think the ownership gives the nudge to Indiana, like Leif said. And sorry, Greg. I know I'm supposed to say Greg now. Yeah, I think the Pacers have definitely been a more stable franchise, at least for the past 20 years. And I just think they've got more going for them in the now. And I think he can make, he can be the coach of a winning team right away, whereas like it's going to suck to see him get fired when the Bulls are still the 11th seed next season. And, they give up on somebody a year or two in, just like every bad organization does. So I do like the Pacers thing. And honestly, the best part about this, what I really wanted to add to this conversation is that Dan Dockich has to eat it if Dan Craig is the head coach for the Indiana Pacers. He has to really eat it.
I got to text Donato on that one. Yeah, that's that's a really good point. But here's the thing about it.
And all the Pacers fans, by the way.
Well, he won't take a bad job because they tried to steer Fizdale not away from Memphis. Spo worked with him on that, but away from the Knicks afterwards. And, he took it anyway. Dan Craig has been around too long, been around Spo too long, and understands what are good organizations and what are not. I do think the stability in Indiana. I do wonder, though, Chicago is nuggeting up their organization. They brought in the Nuggets assistant GM who found a lot of pieces with Denver. I feel like, getting Paxson and Gar Forman out of the way.
Yeah, it sells Chicago. A new vision.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is a bigger market, although it's really high profile. Like if you want to learn as a young coach, like Chicago may not be the place to do it. I mean, it might be better in Indiana. I want to transition though a little bit. Let's talk about coaches around the league now. The Nash hire in Brooklyn. I know that the easy place to go here for a lot of people was, honestly, why is a white coach who has never coached at any level? I mean, he was part of the Golden State organization, but kind of on the fringe of it, right? Getting an opportunity, when we're not seeing black coaches get an opportunity. And then it was pointed out, Isaiah Thomas went straight to a head coaching job. Jason Kidd went straight to a head coaching job. So it has happened. Derek Fisher. Ty Lue was an assistant for a little while. Derek Fisher obviously didn't work out. So it has happened before. I mean, I'm going to acknowledge I'm a huge Steve Nash fan. I mean, just as a player, but also as a person, my interactions with him. I think he gets it. I think he would understand the New York market. To me, he's kind of what Kerr would have been in New York if Kerr had taken the Knicks job, which he didn't take. I think he will play well there. But with that being said, that team has championship aspirations from the jump. Clay, what did you think of the decision?
Well, obviously you step back and say, wow, first time head coach going into that position. And yet it's league. And I'll be honest, I did not know how strong the relationship was with Kevin Durant and Steve Nash. And, the one thing that I think you can say about both Durant and Kyrie Irving is there have been some unsettled waters where they've gone. And so my guess is, and this is without knowing the ins and outs of what was going on in the conversation, you can bet that both Durant and Kyrie Irving signed off on this.
Correct.
So if both of those guys were on board with this move, then you make it. And look, as we were saying with a Dan Craig staff for different reasons, you need to have a really good staff around him, and I'm sure they will. But I thought the most important thing when you're making that hire is make sure that you win the room with those two guys, with Durant and Kyrie. And if you do that, then you've already won more than half the battle.
Well, they did make Jacques Vaughn the highest paid assistant in the league, just like they made Lawrence Frank the highest paid assistant in the league when they brought in Jason Kidd. And then there was backstabbing that went on there. And
we remember Jason Kidd was like the shadow coach, right? That's basically what he was referred to as by media at that time, that he was the one calling the plays. The one thing I'll say about this is that it's weird. I mean, I'm glad for Jack Vaughn that he got paid and, he's getting paid more or whatever. But it is kind of a weird look to have him be the head coach, is just kind of demote him for somebody who has no coaching experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Around the Warriors. I just think objectively that's a weird look. I'm not against it because I do think, like, I'm sure, Ethan, you can attest to this, is that talent management is kind of a huge part of that situation when you have to manage kind of the egos of KD and Kyrie. And I'm not like trying to talk down on them or their personalities, but they have to be backed by those guys and respected by those guys. And Kevin Arnovitz today on the Low Post said that Steve Nash is kind of like the perfect symbol for how this era started. Like he's kind of like the pioneer.
That's a good point.
And let's see if that translates. That that makes you think that they're gonna run something similar. Maybe a lot of threes, a lot of up and down.
Right.
That's assuming. We don't really know, but
right.
Let's see if it pans out. I just think it's definitely a weird look.
Yeah,
I do think what's interesting about it too, beyond that, is that I think somebody made the point that if they could have hired D'Antoni, they probably would have. But this is like starting over with a guy who has no baggage, unlike Mike. And remember, Kerr is a D'Antoni disciple in some ways. Also, he's also a Pop disciple and a Phil Jackson disciple. But there's some similarities there. So Durant's already played in that system a little bit. I do think Nash is the right guy for this. But you're right. The optics of Jacques Vaughn and that team playing so hard for him, and it's like, okay, we're going to pay you, but we don't trust you.
Yeah, that's the thing. He has such good feedback from his players.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I want to get to something else though tied to that. So I'm only going to let you pick one. The most dangerous with the Heat's ascent currently and where they're positioned, the most dangerous rival to them in the Eastern Conference over the next 2 to 3 years is. Greg.
Oh, man.
I'm actually going to go Boston. I think that what we're seeing from them is more of what we're going to see. Every one of their key contributors are either in their prime or just about to go on the downturn. So that would be the team. But there's another race at hand that it would be remiss if I didn't mention it, and that's between Toronto and Miami for the rights to Giannis and how that plays out and the optics surrounding that. So that's the other one. Sorry, I got to get two in.
Well, we'll get to that next. I was saving that for the end, but that's all right. So you're picking Boston. I mean, Kemba's a guy who I think is on the back end of his prime. I wonder how Kemba's body's going to hold up as he gets closer to his 30s. But, I mean, Clay, who would you choose?
Well, I was going to take Boston, and yet if you're talking biggest threat, and I'm going to go where Greg was going with this, I'm going to say Toronto, because if Giannis doesn't come to Miami, he's going to Toronto based on everything we're hearing right now. And let's just assume that he goes to Toronto. Not only is he making the Raptors better in the long term, but he's taking away the guy that could bring the Heat back to that transcendent level. And look, I think they're going to compete as long as Jimmy and Bam are here, because you're going to surround them with the right players and the organization is so strong. But the Raptors are a threat in that if they get Giannis, they're keeping him away from Miami.
Uh-oh, we've got that Caleb Balaj internet again. All right, go to you, Alex. He's coming back. Who do you have?
So I wanted to say something similar to what you guys were saying before about, because that's all that really came to my head, because I think it's just so monumental, right? If there is a chance that he leaves, that he goes to one of those two teams, if that's really true that they're the front runners, like you just have to put him there. But at the end of the day, first of all, by the way, a side note, that tells me that he maybe wouldn't be against joining a team that eliminated him from the playoffs, considering we're talking about the Raptors and now the Heat. But what I really was going to say here, that since I'm not picking Toronto, I'm going to go with Brooklyn. I'm not 100% sure how the Steve Nash thing is going to go, but I trust that they'll be able to find a good enough staff where it's not just on him to do everything. But yeah, man, I think KD is going to be, I don't know if he'll be 100%. I think they'll be right back in there. I think they're going to be a great team. LeVert and Dinwiddie are very good. They've got Joe Harris. They've just got a pretty deep team once you look at it when they're healthy.
Well,
and maybe they make trades, maybe they don't. I think it's going to be Brooklyn in the short term.
You raised a good point, because the two things that plague Miami is point of attack defense. Kyrie will tear your ass up. And then Kevin Durant's that long, rangy wing that like everybody has trouble with, but particularly like when we flinch at the Tatum matchup, it's
Sean
KD's
wins. Sean wins. So. Sorry, not to interrupt you. Sean wins. Al Golden installed my internet. Al Golden installed my internet.
While wearing an orange tie. He did. Cleo Lemon internet. You got John Beck internet.
Sorry, Greg. You were making a great point. I didn't mean to.
No. All good. The jokes are better.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Got that Sixers internet rolling.
That's right. It's a process. But none of us are mentioning the Sixers. By the way, I'm going with Brooklyn also, and I'm going with Brooklyn
Sixers.
because because of the pieces that they have, and I think their GM's good. I think Sean Marks is good. He put them in this position. Remember where they were a few years ago when he took over that mess and he had to clean it up, and he didn't do it the way that the Sixers did it by gutting the team and trying to, they actually tried to build a quote unquote culture there, which I think they had to a certain degree with Atkinson, and then obviously they got to rebuild it. But I think that the other key point is they have movable pieces.
That's true.
Like LeVert, if they decide, look, we have enough scoring, we've got enough backcourt punch, we want to move Karis LeVert, they will get something for Karis LeVert, okay? If they decide that they want to move Spencer Dinwiddie, they will get something for Spencer Dinwiddie.
By the way, they're behind LeVert. Apparently, KD is cool with him.
But what about Spencer? I saw
Dinwiddie called him the third star yesterday, I think it was.
I know, and Spencer's very active on Twitter, but I mean, to me, they got to re-sign Joe Harris because
no doubt.
He gives them something different than the rest of the group gives.
He's their Duncan,
right? And so and plus I'm a big fan of his just personally and his story. He's got a very similar kind of Duncan-like story to a certain degree. All right, let's get to the next one, and yes, keep the internet comments coming about Clay as long as he can stay on here with us. Want to get to Clay. Clay has no internet at home. He's using a hotspot from his phone. Are they not paying you at Channel 10?
No, it's weird. It just started today, and I stream. This is where I stream from. I'm right next to the router, and it works beautifully. And then today, for some reason, it started. So I blame my kids. They've been watching too many Muppet Babies episodes, and so blame the kids. When in doubt, blame the kids.
This is you just really discovered something here. I think this is the unintended consequence from all the TV stuff moving towards streaming services. Is that now we're all streaming in the household, and everybody's like, "Damn it, this internet is so."
Seriously,
get like that at points. Seriously, when everybody's using it.
And I think Ethan's froze. Is that? Am I seeing that right? Is Ethan frozen?
That's what I see. Yeah.
See, that's from everybody making fun of me. That's what you get. Al Golden came to Ethan's house now.
Yeah, Ethan definitely has his fair share of technical problems. I can personally attest to that.
Ben, I gotta take the dime and put it in the coin slot. Ben said I've got a coin slot internet. Oh yeah. There you go, Karma. So
next man up on the hosting. Next man up.
Who's that? Who takes the reins from here?
Well, look, I know Ethan. I don't know what his topic list is, but I know he did say that he wanted to get to the whole. He wanted to keep talking about. The whole Giannis to the Heat thing, and especially with the reports that have come out recently. Okay, there we go. You're back up.
I'm back up. Maybe it was me last time. I'm not really sure. I moved to a different place in my condo. All right, so let's get to the last topic here. We're gonna go back to AOL dial up next time. We'll see how that works. The last thing I wanted to get to, I threw this topic out. There you go. My head Ethan was laughing and thought I was snapped. There you go. Let's get to the last one. And I don't want to devote a whole pod to this. I want to put you guys on the spot. I threw this out there on Twitter the other day. Is Goran Dragic a top 10 player in Miami Heat history? Clay, I want you to do this now, top of your head. You'll get to 3 before the internet craps out. So you'll get somewhere around Shaq.
Yeah, so I mean, and we're talking about totality of career, right? So
with Miami.
Oh, so just with Miami?
Anywhere else.
Well, I mean, look, yeah, you got to still put LeBron and Shaq on there, and then obviously Dwayne Wade is number 1. So there's 3. Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning. So you're at 5. Where do you put? I mean, Glenn Rice, obvious one. Do you put Chris Bosh has to be ahead of him, right?
Hold on, Clay. I'm gonna.
Who's he again?
No. I'm gonna slow you down. I'm gonna write this down, okay? Because I don't know about Glenn Rice.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead. You got Wade, you've got LeBron, you've got Shaq. I'm assuming Zoe's on there somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. CB.
Okay, Chris Bosh.
CB. Tim Hardaway.
Timmy. Okay.
Yep. I feel like I said somebody.
So
Shaq,
that's 6.
Did we say Shaq?
Yeah.
And Shaq. Okay, we're at 6.
All right. Is Steve Smith on there?
Over Goran? No.
Man,
yeah,
no.
I don't think so either.
I think you can comfortably add Glenn Rice.
Yeah, I put Glenn Rice on there, and yet I think at that point you're Dexter Pittman. At that point, you're at least getting to a level where it's debatable. And if you're at 8 and it's debatable, then I think you can say he's top 10.
Yeah. Now it's Jimmy, Bam, and Goran, and there's your guys right there. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Duncan Robinson.
So hold on a second. So you would have So Greg, if I'm getting this straight from you, Wade, LeBron, Shaq, Zoe, Bosh, Hardaway, Rice, Butler, Bam, Goran.
Oh man, but we forgot UD. UD is just he's just an extra on the list, right? But yeah, no, I think that's probably it. Where who am I missing?
Did Nash have a better Heat career than Goran?
No, he did not.
I don't think so.
Did PJ Brown?
No.
Okay. Did anybody from the post LeBron era, between that era and Butler, Bam? I mean, Goran would be the only one, right?
That era never happened.
Hassan
moving on.
Whiteside, definitely.
Deanna Hassan, don't make it. By the way, did you guys see Tyler Johnson's tweet? Did you guys see?
Yeah,
that?
I think he thought he was on his burner account.
I think so.
What?
If people didn't
Oh
see
my
that,
God.
If people didn't see the Tyler Johnson tweet, someone was it that CPO tweet stuff or something? I've seen.
Yeah, Chris Posada.
Okay, he tweeted,
Long time Heat Twitter resident.
Yeah,
he tweeted something to the effect of, that they've basically come through a river of shit, right? Like sort of like Shawshank Redemption.
Named 5 names from that post LeBron area you're talking about and how they moved past that within a year or whatever.
Tyler, Whiteside, etc. And Tyler decided to challenge him by tweeting back from the real T Johnson. He tweeted back about him and James Johnson, leading the league in bench scoring and all the rest.
No, you got to say it like he did. He said it in what do you call it? Like he said his name.
Third person.
Yes,
Third
yes.
person. Oh man,
He did it twice in the same tweet, by the way.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yep.
So like neither of these are good options. Either he was on his own account and intentionally going third person, or he was accidentally not using his burner.
Yeah.
Like neither one of those is a good option.
He didn't say anything about Dion. That's true.
He did. You're right. He didn't mention Dion at all. He didn't
Oh my God.
Are we missing somebody here though? Because I feel like we're missing somebody.
I mean, maybe Ronnie Cycli for his historical contributions. You would add him in the conversation. Brian Grant, maybe, because Anthony Mason made an All-Star team. I'm digging deep here.
How about Eddie Jones?
He deserves to be mentioned, but he came up short. He didn't live up to his contract, and ultimately they proved they thought he didn't have enough. That's why he went to Memphis. So I think we're kind of narrowed down here. This is it. Ray Allen for the shot maybe gets a mention. I saw someone say Gary Payton. We don't mean like best career players and we're talking about when they were in Miami.
Right. And here's the other thing, guys. I am a big proponent of bumping guys up based on what they do in the clutch and what they do in the postseason. And, I'm a guy that I think Robert Horry is incredibly underappreciated. And I know if you're an NBA fan, the big moments, and even if you're a fringe fan, but what he did in big moments and how good he would have been in today's NBA. I think he's underappreciated. And so I say all that because I feel like what Goran has done in these 6 games, and hopefully they go on and finish off this series, and it means even more. But I feel like this has catapulted him, whereas maybe he was on the fringe before. He's there now because of what he's done in the playoffs this time.
I feel like he's erased anything that was talked about negatively about him earlier in his career, because there were moments we used to talk a lot about how he would kind of retreat to the corner with the ball in Dwayne's hands. And he's changed the narrative a lot. This one comes in Anthony Carter's agent.
That is a good one. He knows his history.
As was Gerald Green's Flocka dealer. That one would come in. There's a lot we could go to. Joel Anthony. But yeah, I think that Goran has changed the narrative on himself. And I think he knows about the narrative. I've gotten the impression, as defiant as he is, that he's believed he could have done this all along. And it's just that he's gotten the opportunity now that changes things. All right, let's close here while we still have Clay. And again, Clay, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the pregame show that you guys are going to be doing here over the weekend. Let's get to Game 3, though. Quick picks. Alex.
Bucks. I feel it. They're not going to go down 3-0. It just seems too good to be true. I think 2-0 is great. It's phenomenal. I think the Bucks are going to squeeze out Game 3.
Greg?
Let's go Heat by Duncan Robinson's uniform number.
Clay?
And I'm going to go Bucks just because I picked the Bucks to win each of the first ones.
You know what? His internet crapped out before he could say it. It doesn't count. It doesn't count.
Bucks. It'll be 2-1.
Clay came on here to promote what he's doing this weekend. His internet's not going to let him. I kind of like the Bucks in this one too. Again, I picked the Heat in 6. I think it could be 5 now, but I'm going to stay consistent on that. I do think that although I do think in some ways that the Bucks have shown their best at times in this series, I feel like there's going to be one game that the Heat don't shoot particularly well. Maybe it comes up in Game 3, and I also think that if Olynyk is not playing and Iguodala is not playing, it does change the rotation quite a bit. I mean, you were going to plug DJJ in for one of them, not both of them, and you're also more reliant on Kendrick Nunn to give you good minutes. So I think the Heat lose Game 3, they win Game 4, they take a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. Clay, what do you got going on this weekend?
2:30 on Sunday afternoon, we got our countdown to tip-off show. Wow. Is your phone okay? Man. I hope that was like one of those old school phones that you can just – was that like a flip phone or something? I hope that's not an iPhone.
Got to get the insurance claim in.
2:30 Sunday afternoon, we're going to do our countdown to tip-off show ahead of Game 4. And it's not just getting you ready for Game 4, but we're kind of looking back at the season and some of the more fun moments. Because I feel like – and you guys were here for the Harlem Shake team. I got here towards the end of the Big 3 run. To me, this is the most fun Heat team that I've been around. And frankly, I think it's the most fun South Florida sports team since I got here in 2014. So I want to look back and look at some of these fun moments and kind of relive this season, because I feel like when you put it all together, you start to see kind of how this team was so enjoyable early on and how that bond even got better as the season went on.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do another episode, Greg.
Sounds awesome.
And I think we're going to have to do another episode, so maybe we'll use some of what Clay does here this weekend about where this team ranks, because we did one of those episodes about where this one ranks in Heat history, and it's moved ahead of a couple.
We got to scrap that. We have more to talk about.
It's moved. And by the way, my phone is resilient, so just like the Heat. My phone is resilient. I'm fine. Clay, thanks for joining us. Clay Ferraro from Channel 10. Thank your internet for joining us whenever it arrives. So let us. I'm
gonna go escort Al Golden out the building now. Since
that was the best one. Follow Tropical Blanket. Follow Greg Sylvander. We will be back with a live stream tomorrow night. Should I let Alf host it even if I'm on? Just thinking about.
I vote yes. I vote yes. Ethan, you got to think about it like
don't
this.
Fix it.
Think about the adjustments Spo made for the playoffs, right? He started Goran, took pressure off of Jimmy to run everything, and I think you got to think about it in that same light, man. Take Al from running the bench unit and let him take some pressure off of you so you can be the scorer, man.
I'll score. I'm going to play off the ball. I think
Alf is going to get his in regardless.
I'll do that. Plus, Alf will be wasted tomorrow. I mean, it's a Friday. I mean, he will be wasted by that time. So
you're talking about putting out a quality product for the people. There's no better way to do it.
All right, we'll do that. All right, check us out on Dash Radio. Again, Nothing But Net channel every day, 10 to 11. Usually the production will sound better than this. Thanks, Clay. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Alex. And I don't even want to read that last comment. Good night.